Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's broadcast for the TNR Master Millwright Big Block Series as we are here live in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania at the just over half a mile clay speedway known as Williams Grove. It plays host to race number 4 on the season as so far this year, 2 drivers have found victory lane. 2 drivers find themselves in a gridlock battle for the points lead, and number of new faces showing up here tonight could lead to our third different winner on the season. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Anthony McCurry as the heat race is about to begin here tonight at Williams Grove. Anthony, obviously here tonight, a little bit different of a short track than we've had in the first 3 races of the season. What's some of the things that we've observed here in practice has kind of been the trouble spots these drivers are going to have to deal with here tonight?
Well, aside from what happened last week where everyone wanted to run the outside of the racetrack, this week everyone wants to run the inside of the racetrack. I've noticed a lot of drivers arcing it in from the top side down to diamond it and then ride it out. It's a very differently shaped track than what we were at last weekend. This one is it's basically a more traditional oval with chutes down the straightaways and tight turns. So want to maximize the amount of speed. Also, there's barely any banking in these turns. At the track we were at last time, I believe was Lernerville, we did not have, or we had rather, a lot of banking on the outside, so everyone wanted to run around the outside of the racetrack. We don't have such a thing here tonight, so everyone trying to duck to the inside to get the jump on the guys around them. Other than that, you'll notice that we have guardrails everywhere around this circuit. Last time out, hadn't had that either. It was we had a front straightaway barrier on the outside, but on the outside of the racetrack around turns 2. Actually, around the rest of the racetrack, we didn't have any barriers. So, differences there is that if you have a spin or a mishap, you're going straight into either the outside or the inside guardrails.
This track is going to be very unforgiving, and bear in mind as well, if this was last season and they got damage from these steel guardrails, they'd be able to come down pit road and take on a faster pair. The faster pair is no longer in play here in this season, so these drivers are going to have to do their best to keep the fenders on it. James Boniface, in only his second start last week, picked up win number 1 at Lernerville. He's your pole sitter for this first heat race alongside of Jason Freeman. James Richard will make his first start in the season alongside of Kyle Roginski. Tony Lucarelli and Brian Rubel are going to bring up the third and final row for this heat. Another thing we got to keep an eye on too, you talk about them running low. Well, there's some tires down there at the very bottom of these corners that could maybe hook that left front tire as well. So, oh boy, we're already out of the gate having some issues. A little bit of wheel spin for Jason Freeman. He pancakes the right side, and he's going to drop from second place all the way back to around the 4th position.
Boniface gets to a good lead out of the gate. Richard will be right behind him. There's a guy that tagged the wall back behind there. I think that was Lucarelli on the outside, or make that Roginski on the out. Or yeah, it was Lucarelli that made some contact with the barricade. He ended up getting a bit unsettled, and now everyone from about 3rd place on back trying to battle side by side. You've got Freeman and Roginski in a battle, Lucarelli and Werbel in a battle, but up at the front, Richard and Boniface are about to have a battle for the lead of the race. So far, so clean, but we have a lot of battles still around the racetrack.
And bear in mind, in the heat races, only the top 5 in points get bonus points.
Whoa!
Oh, and Brian Rubel drove it really deep in. Did not clear Kyle Roginski, and now Rubel's upside down, and the caution is going to have to fly for this. Very rarely do we see a yellow flag thrown in the heats. But with the 4-car turtled over there, and more than likely the leader is going to be coming into that vicinity momentarily, caution having to be thrown.
Now, the caution laps do not count on these races, so we will still have 10 green flag laps of racing. But yeah, it's a very rare caution to have for the upside down 4 machine. Everyone slowing down, and I think that was just some contact. Contact is pretty normal for these drivers, but for whatever reason, Werbel ended up just a slow roll over with the contact with Roginski, and maybe that he actually got into Freeman initially, and then his tires just dug into the ground.
I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of that during the course of the night. I mean, you talked about the running the inside and practice, diamonding the corner. A lot of drivers going to be utilizing that and maybe getting runs a little too quickly to the bumper of the car that they're battling sooner than they would think. Also thinking the slide job is going to come into play a lot here when we eventually get to our 35-lap main event, as lights are still on there atop of the pace car. Now, Brian Rubel I don't think he got a lot of damage from that incident. The tough thing for him was that the car never came back on all four wheels, so he had to call for a tow, and he's going to more than likely, actually, if he's able to get out off of pit road, if the tow is able to complete, since, as you pointed out, we don't have any caution laps counting in this, he would theoretically not go a lap down, because there would be no lap counted, so he's actually got a shot here. He can get out before the field is turned back loose to still be on the lead lap and still have a shot at some bonus points here with the top 5 finish.
Yeah, he's got to get back on the racetrack in about a half a lap's time, and with the amount of time that he's got left, if he does get back out, he will be undoubtedly close to going a lap down, as the leaders are now coming around the back straightaway. It's Boniface, Richard, Freeman, Lucarelli, and Roginski. That's going to be our top 5, as Brian Werbel still stuck on the pit lane. Nowhere close to being able to come out. Green flag's back in the air. He will go a lap down now. Boniface again pulls out to a great lead, but behind him, Richard right behind him, and now Jason Freeman has caught right back up to the back end of the 16, trying to make some headway.
Much better restart for Jason Freeman than the initial start of this race. So we got some contact back there for 4th, and I think we might have almost had a spin. Roginski and Lucarelli exchanging some paint. Lucarelli almost went around, but keeps it pointed in the right direction. Loses a ton of spots, though, a live track position, I should say, as a result. And James Richard, he has kept Boniface honest ever since the start of this heat. He is all over the back of that 213 once again. Now almost alongside him off of 4.
Trying to make some ground up, trying to send it into one of these turns, down into turn 1, gets alongside very briefly, but Boniface will be able to carry the momentum down the back straightaway, and that's the benefit of having very little in the way of banking, is you can really send it into a turn and you're not going to have anything change on you, so you can basically run it as far deep as you want to and be able to keep the power down. The problem with that is that you allow the hole underneath that. For example, Richard right now trying to get alongside, and he might be alongside going into turn 3, which is not what Boniface wanted.
Wow, look, there's Boniface. Cut it down really early. Tried to pin James Richard against that steel guardrail, but nothing doing. They still stay alongside each other back to the start-finish line. 3 laps to go in this heat. Jason Freeman's up here in the mix too, saying, hey, if you guys want to mix it up, I'll be more than happy to move by the both of you and pick up those 5 heat win bonus points.
You gotta be careful about making contact with these cars as well. The front wheels are exposed, and if you lock them with the other driver, then you have potential for, well, another rollover that we might have seen earlier on in the race. But right now, still a riveting battle side by side between Richard and Boniface, and right now, advantage goes to Boniface only because he can keep the power down. Richard has to slow down. There's been contact made, and Freeman gets through, and he's gone to the lead.
They both got on the brakes. Did Boniface and Richard thinking they were going to wreck? Freeman never lifted. Oh, and now there's contact. The top 3 all spinning. Who's getting by? It's James Richard on the final lap getting by all of it.
Roginski also goes through into 2nd place when the final lap of the race. James Richard will win Heat 1. That was an incredible drive by the 16 to recover from the earlier contact.
Richard, Roginski, and Lucarelli cross the line 1, 2, 3. Boniface will have to settle for 4th, and Freeman will finish in 5th, the final driver to get bonus points in this heat. But my goodness, what an incredible final mile there.
Well, Heat 2 drivers are going to have to figure out a way to top that finish. I don't know if there's going to be a way to top those final 5 laps or not, but nevertheless, that was an incredible. And what was cool is that you had 2 drivers that have run the back of the pack pretty much all race long, being Lucarelli and wow, his name escaped me for some reason, but having those two at the Roginski, having them at the back of the pack, and then all of a sudden they've opened up the opportunity to come in and get a 2nd and 3rd place. Now, give credit to Richard; he was able to keep the pace up and get around with the contact made by Freeman and the rest, but still. Fantastic battle. What are we going to see from Heat 2? And from that standpoint, what are we going to see in the main race?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting, especially with the fact, too, let's bear in mind that, you know, in this 2nd heat, these drivers are coming out and running on the racing surface left behind by the drivers in the 1st heat, so they're going to be a little bit more in search mode to try and find some grip in this 10-lap shootout. Lupe Gonzalez is going to be the pole sitter for this one. Anthony Perego, who's making his second start in the season, coming off a third-place finish in his debut back at Fairbury. He'll be on the outside of the front row. Grant Wesley going to line up in the third position. Then it's going to be Matthew Hearn in the 2. He also made his debut back at Fairbury. Didn't fare quite as well as he finished 17th in that main event. Tristan Mayer, nice to see him back in the field here in that 177. He'll be rolling off from the 5th position alongside of Philip Scott in the 9. Scott making his second start on the season as well. He also debuted back at Fairbury where he finished in the 13th position.
We'll get them set up for 10 laps around this beautiful circuit tonight. This will be Heat 2, and then we'll get into the main event race, which will be 35 laps. Now, cautions will occur in the main event, and as we stated the last one, typically they don't occur, but in the case of a flipped over car, we just might see that happen again. We get them lined up on the grid. Green flag coming out momentarily. We're racing here, and there's already contact in the front, and I think that was Perego that's gone around.
It was indeed. He is going to keep it going. The 2 of Matthew Hearn, though, pointed it into the guardrail going into turn 1. No caution going to come out here, though. The field very spread out as a result. And Lupe Gonzalez, at least for the time being, trying to wave bye-bye to the rest of the field. Wesley now up to 2nd. And Tristan Maher, who started 5th, is now up into the podium spot, 3rd place.
Trying to catch up to the top 2 is Maher, but behind him he's got Philip Scott, who had to... we got a yellow out on the racetrack right now.
It's
not
Perego.
sure. Perego has...
Perego's gone around.
He has indeed, right in front of the leaders as well. So the yellow flag coming out for the second time in these heat races. This time for a wayward Perego. And I think this time around he just spun it all by himself. He might have gotten some contact with the outside guardrail, though.
Yeah, looks like he did just a tiny bit before he went into turn 1, and the back end stepping around. Almost got a hit there from the 2 of Matthew Hearn as he made his way on by. Was able to keep his car on the lead lap, got it refired, continue on. So all 6 drivers still in the hunt here for some bonus points in this heat. But this is interesting. It's something we're going to maybe have to keep in our hip pocket in terms of information for the main event, because it's rare enough to see one caution in the heat races, but now we've seen a caution in both of the heat races at this point.
And that's, again, it's extremely rare to see these happen. The first one was understandable. We had a car flipped over. This one, I think it's the reason that Anthony Perego was just stopped in the middle of the racetrack and the leaders were quickly approaching. So that might have been the reason why they decided to throw a full course out on the racetrack. Another reason, too, might just be the track itself. This one is much thinner than Lernerville was the last time out. That track was wide and it had a lot of space to fan out. This one, not so much. You've got about 3 lanes of traffic that are viable, but as soon as you get into the turns, again, dirt cars are not like traditional street racing or just any kind of other racing where you see drivers will be able to hook the car down onto a part of the racetrack and be able to keep it there. These cars will slide extremely easily, so having that as a motive, and that might be the reason why we are seeing some of these yellows come out a bit more frequently under these conditions to keep the race cars in pristine condition enough that when we get into the main event race that none of them are struggling.
We're getting ready to go back green flag racing. Matthew Hearn has been sitting on pit road for the last couple of laps here under these pacing laps. Looks like he's getting that front end damage that he sustained, nosing it into the steel guardrail, fixed, and Tristan Mayer, oh boy, oh, that's gonna go over. I thought maybe he was gonna be able to keep that thing on the ground, but it does a little bit of a tilt-a-whirl over on its roof, back on all 4 wheels. We stay under the green flag up to this point in time, and that will allow Grant Wesley to begin the hunt on Lupe Gonzalez.
Anthony Perego, after bringing out the yellow flag the last time around, has now found himself in a 3rd place position, chasing down Grant Wesley, which, credit to him, has been able to keep his car clean enough that he's been able to keep up with the pace. And something that I want to touch on as well, we've seen it twice now at the start of the race, that when these drivers start, their car wants to arc up to the outside of the racetrack once they get the power down. And we've seen 2 drivers so far hit that outside retaining wall. As a result of it, as Perego goes to the underneath side of Grant Wesley after Wesley had a bobble. This is a battle for 2nd place. But do you think that once we get into the main event, that's going to be an issue as the crossover by Perego is successful.
I think it is. I tell you why I think it is. When I was watching these guys under pace, and it's exactly the way that they look coming off the corner here under race conditions, and that's having that left front tire sticking way up in the air, not on the racing surface. I guarantee you, it's very difficult to get a car to get going up through the gears when it doesn't have all 4 tires on the ground. I think that's why we've been seeing these issues here on the restarts.
I'll tell you what, Perego's got a wicked fast car. He's already caught up to Gonzalez. Before the yellow came out, Gonzalez had a pretty big lead, but now it's all but evaporated as now Perego on the back end trying to make something work. Swings it outside, and now the driver's trying to find grip or going to the outside of the racetrack. The blue line is right where everyone was fastest in Heat 1. That's gone away. Everyone's searching for extra grip. We've seen that everyone goes to the outside of the racetrack. There's plenty of room up there, but it's definitely a shorter way around the race, or a longer way around the racetrack.
That time, Lupe Gonzalez took the top. Perego takes the bottom, and that had a little bit of a bobble there. Had to back out of the throttle and almost had Wesley into the back of him. Philip Scott back there in the 9 doing a good job in that 4th position, trying to get himself some heat points, but looks like the battle for 2nd place might be the one to watch here in the closing laps, as we're going to be seeing the white flag next time by here in the 2nd heat.
Perego's bobble has hurt him quite a bit as he's lost a lot of ground back to Gonzalez, but Grant Wesley is smelling opportunity, trying to catch up towards him, but now they get spread out. It's all but Lupe Gonzalez's race on the final lap, but all he has to do is be consistent throughout the final 2 turns going down the back straightaway. Lupe Gonzalez looks like he's going to take Heat 2. If he can come out of turn 4 cleanly, he will take Heat 2 here at Williams Grove.
It'll be his first heat win of his TNR Master Millwright Big Block Series career. Coming into tonight, he only had 1 bonus point to his name this season, so raking in some big points right there, a lot of momentum as well. Now, granted, it's not going to give him the best of starting positions later on in the main event, but man, it's got to be a big smile on the face of the driver, the 35 for sure.
Absolutely. And now we're getting another treat, as last week we only had 2 heats, now we've got 3, so got a 3rd heat to go through for these drivers to set the grid for tonight's race and set the 2nd heat full of action. First heat was extremely action-packed. What are we going to expect to see from Heat 3? These drivers have been able to observe what happened throughout the first 2, and the track conditions are much different. Do you think they drive a little bit more reserved, or do you think they go all out to make it into the main event?
There's no reservation, and I'll tell you why. Remember I said at the top of the program that 2 drivers come into this race in a gridlock for that top position in points. They're starting on the front row. Bobby Trapper, 2-time winner and points leader, 12 points over John Canonzaro, who will start to his outside. These guys know that these heat points are very important towards the championship. Bobby Puckett's going to line up in the 3rd position. Ethan Stuckwich will be in 4th, and Zane Burke is going to complete this top 5. Keep an eye on Ethan Stuckwich as well. Stuckwich climbed 4 spots in the standings last week, up to 8th position in the points. Granted, he's 66 points out, but the season is still young. Plenty of opportunity to get up there in that championship hunt before we end up getting to the season finale at the dirt track of Charlotte.
So Bobby Trapper, John Canonzaro will be your front row again. Now, as Seth said, these 2 are the points leaders. Well, one of them is the points leader, but the points battle is extremely hot. They are going to fight tooth and nail for this win, for these heat points now. And if they continue to have these kind of run-ins with each other, when we get to the main event, you'd almost think that they'll be able to size each other up a bit easier for that race, given the fact that they're both racing together in this one. But the safety truck pulls down onto our pit lane, getting set to go for 10 laps of racing. Will we see yellow in this race? It seems to be the trend. We'll find out. Green flags in the air, and Canonzaro almost got the outside guardrail, but this time everyone gets off the grid fine.
Yeah, everybody looked really good there on that start as opposed to the 2 previous heats. They're all going to get themselves single-filed out. Well, I thought they were. Trapper's going to be alongside the left rear quarter panel of Canonzaro. Tries to pull ahead off of 4, but the outside line prevails. Move Canonzaro to the lead. Took it! Oh, hard into the wall there. He had Stuckwich into the back of him as he got checked up by the 69 off of turn 4.
Canonzaro still out front, but Trapper might have something to say about it, diving to the inside, but don't count out Bobby Puckett. He's right behind these 2. They're almost taking it 3 wide out the exit of turn 4, but single file down the front straightaway. 3 laps complete, or make that 2 laps completed on the 3rd lap. 3 wide now for the lead. Puckett all the way down on the inside line, trying to hold it down there, but as the nights progress, that inside line's gone away extremely quickly.
Now, Bobby Trapper has 2 wins coming into this race. There's a lot of contact between himself and Puckett for the 2nd position. The reason that Cannizzaro, who is winless yet this season, has been able to keep Bobby Trapper within striking distance. He's had very good consistent finishes inside of the top 5 in the first 3 races, but he also outnumbers Bobby Trapper in bonus points in the heat races, 15-13. So that is another thing that's given him the advantage of keeping the 69 within striking distance to take the points lead. Could tonight, though, be the time that John Cannizzaro puts that number 3 in victory lane?
We're about to find out tonight, because right now he's got a huge lead over Trapper and Puckett, who continue to battle, and at the rate they're going, this race will be over by the time the Trapper can catch up to Cannizzaro. Back behind these 3, you've got Ethan Stuckwich, who got stuck behind Bobby Puckett and ended up getting some front-end damage. He's going to be in 4th place. Zane Burke is settled into a 5th place position. Both these drivers just trying to hold on to the end of this heat race as of right now, but Cannizzaro has lost some ground to Trapper as the laps tick by. Trapper gets a bit more aggressive, sends it in, almost makes some contact with the 3, but still, with about 3 laps to go, what can we see out of Trapper to catch up to Cannizzaro?
Riding on board here with Bobby Trapper, who, oh, by the way, last season in his championship schedule ended up winning this race, so he knows how to get around this just over a half-mile dirt track as he's to the inside of Cannizzaro there off turn 4. Can't get the run down the front straightaway. Gonna keep trying here as he's still got 2 laps to work with.
On the inside, he's got the lead momentarily, can't hold the momentum, and Cannizzaro will get it at the line. 2 laps to go. That might be a little bit of a test of the waters to see what he can get away with later on into the main event, but right now it didn't seem to work out as now Trapper tries the outside down, ducks into the inside, sails it into turn 3, has got the lead of the race. Can he hold it? Can he get the momentum? Can he slide up in front? No, Cannizzaro again will get that at the line. 1 lap to go.
Cannizzaro hanging tough on the top. Trapper gets the advantage to the center of the corner, but then the 3 gets the run off the turn. Trapper had to run the inside last time. Now Cannizzaro blocks the inside. Trapper jumps to the outside. Cannizaro's going to hold him off. He'll pick up the win here in the 3rd and final heat. Trapper gave it a run there, tried to squeeze to the outside, but he'll have to settle for 2nd. Puckett, Stuckwich, and Burke are going to be the completion of this heat. All of them will get bonus points, but there's another point that the 3 gained on the 69 right there in that heat race.
And that was a great battle all the way down to the line, and I think that everyone that had already gone through their heats were taking notes of where you can and cannot make moves, and we've established that the inside line will get the run the advantage going in, but unless you can slide up in front of the guy you're trying to pass, it's almost impossible to hold the momentum, while everyone else on the high side is able to keep the momentum while having the chance to lose the lead of the race momentarily. You're able to, again, get out in front and continue on with the momentum out of the turn. So big lessons for all the drivers who have already taken part in their heats going into our main event, which will be a 35-lap main event. All 17 drivers that took their heats will be in the main event race. Ethan Stuckwich and Philip Scott are going to be the front row for this one.
Yeah, keep an eye on Stuckwich because he's proven in the 2 starts he's made this season that it doesn't really matter where he starts. He's going to get a good finish out of it. At Lernerville last week, he started 5th, finished runner-up. In his debut at Fairbury, he started in the back, 19th, brought it home in the 5th position. Row 2 is going to find last week's winner, James Boniface, alongside of Bobby Puckett. Grant Wesley and Tony Lucarelli make up Row 3. Bobby Trapper and Anthony Perego are going to be in Row 4. Kai Roginski and our Heat 3 winner, John Cannizzaro, they're going to be in Row 5. Lupe Gonzalez, who took the victory in the 2nd heat, he'll be back in 11th alongside of the Heat 1 winner, James Richard, who will be 12th. Jason Freeman and Tristan Maher are going to be in Row 7. Zane Burke will be 15th, and since they finished their respective heats on pit road, Brian Rubel will start back in 16th, and Matthew Hearn in the 17th position. As you mentioned, Anthony, all 17 drivers going to take the green flag here, and Boy, we saw some incredible racing in the heat races. Now it's going to be interesting to see what these drivers do. Do they pace themselves in this 35 lapper, or do they go right to work in putting into motion what they learned in those heats?
Heat 1 was full of action, drivers flipping over, and we saw an insane battle to the line that saw one of the closest finishes that we've seen in a long time. Heat 2, no different. Intense action, another yellow came out, but a bit more of a lead. Heat 3, they raced more reserved and got to the end of the race. 17 drivers on track at once, 35 laps of green flag racing here at Williams Grove Speedway. We're waiting for the lights. We're green here, and it looks like Stuckwich is going to get a great run off. 3 wide almost for second place as everyone files through turn 1, okay? Spreading out through turn 2, Stuckwich, Puckett, and Boniface are going to be your top 3.
You call leaning on each other and banging doors okay? That's what they did through turns 1 and 2. They're still doing it through 3 and 4 as we're 3 wide. Trapper, Cannon, Zorro. I believe that is Richard on the top side. They're all going to settle it out. Now it's Cannon, Zorro, and Trapper battling back here side by side. Up towards the front, though, you got 3 drivers trying to scamper away. Stuckwich, Puckett, and Boniface with a bit of a gap now back to 4th place, which is Bobby Puckett and Tony Lucarelli. Boniface, a little contact with the race leader, and now there's contact around the 5th position. Everybody, somehow, some way, still pointed in the right direction, and as soon as I say that, there's the caution. Jason Freeman is flipping upside down, end over end on the front straightaway.
We saw some contact with James Richard and Anthony Perego that we thought was going to be an incident, but now Jason Freeman finds himself upside down and now teleporting onto pit lane. So that is an extremely unfortunate situation for Jason Freeman, one that sure that he'd like to take back. That contact happened, I believe, on the exit of turn 4. I think he just overdrove it, or I think he got hooked.
I think he might have gotten a little bit of both. It definitely looks like he may have come up across the nose of Matthew Hearn, but at the same time, Hearn was definitely right into his back bumper as well. So tough break there for Jason Freeman, who goes up and over. That car ended up on its roof, much like we saw happen to Brian Rubel back in the first heat race, and as consequence, he had to call for a tow, and now he's in the same situation that Rubel was back in the heat race as well. If he could get that car out there with the fact that we do not count the caution laps, he would still be on the lead lap and still be in contention. But if he can't get back out there before we go back green, he'll more than likely lose a lap or 2 and have to rely maybe on a couple more cautions to get those laps back.
He'll try to get out as quickly as possible, but from where he ended up crashing to how long the tow might take, it might be an extended stay on the pit lane for that stranded 20 machine. Ethan Stuckwich, Bobby Puckett, and James Boniface are going to be your top 3 going into the restart on lap 4 out of 35. And much like in Heat 1, the first yellow of the evening happens due to a flipping car, this time going down the front straightaway. Although, interestingly enough, these drivers learned from their mistakes of the first 2 heat races, and they didn't overdrive it on the start of the race. Remember, we saw that everyone was trying to get on the power and arcing up to the outside of the racetrack and making contact with the guardrail. I don't think anybody did that, at least in the top 10 that I could see on the start of the race, so might have taken some notes from that one. Also, the track has gotten a lot easier to slide around on. We've noticed that a lot of drivers struggling to find grip in the turns as they've been sailing in the inside and then slowly slithering out to the outside of the racetrack. But getting set to go back to green flag racing. Seth, still have a long way to go in this one. Green flag back in the air, and Puckett's already almost lost it. He's in a 3 wide situation almost with Wesley and others.
Yeah, he got caught by surprise, and he's going to go around off the nose of Lucarelli. That car almost flips over as the caution immediately comes out for the second time here tonight in the main event.
And some more contact was made with drivers further up the pack, but don't think that any of them ended up with any damage. Certainly Bobby Puckett, I don't think, ended up with much damage out of that one as well, and that he did get hooked off the nose of, I think it was the 41 that was the one, the culprit of this one.
And I think a big reason by that as well, as I mentioned, there was a hit there for, I think that was the 16 of James Richard in a pretty good shot with the right front, but a big reason why he was kind of back in that situation. Stuckwich, the 24, is the control car. As soon as the pace car hits pit road, he has the right to accelerate at any point that he so chooses. I think he kind of caught Bobby Puckett flat-footed, and That put Puckett way up on the top side there going into turn one, led to that contact to himself and Tony Lucarelli. Lucarelli now towards the back of the pack, obviously having to slow up for the 40 spin around in front of him. And we'll see what this does for Jason Freeman. Freeman did lose a lap because he was still on pit road when we went back green, at least for a lap's time. We'll see if he actually is going to get that lap back here. This might have been a bit of a godsend caution for the driver of the 20.
We'll have to find out. Right now, currently only scored 1 lap down. If he doesn't get this lap back, I'll be confused, because by all means he should. Running in the 17th spot, we'll have to keep tabs on that one as they're getting gridded up for the restart. Still going to be Stuckwich in the lead of the race. Now James Boniface finds himself in second place. Grant Wesley will move up into third, and Bobby Trapper has fallen back down into fourth place, and then Cannizzaro will make up top 5. So far, only run 4 laps. We'll make that about 3.5 laps, really, under green flag conditions. We're still a long way to go in this one. Do you think that these drivers are getting a bit antsy? They want to go racing. They know what they can do based on what they've done in the heat races. Now they just got to put it in practice. And if these quick yellows keep coming out every 3 to 4 laps, it might just be that some of these drivers won't get through the field as quickly as they'd hope to.
We'll kind of compare it to a NASCAR race where you go into a long green flag run, a caution comes out, everybody gets bunched back up. They realize, hey, here's my opportunity to pick up spots. That's what it is on these restarts. You want to get 2, 3, 4 positions before everybody starts getting spread out.
And speaking of getting spread out, Stuckwich was not waiting around on the restart. He jumped the gun and got up to a pretty big lead. Now Boniface has been able to make headway and tries to catch up to him. Back behind them, we've got Wesley and Trapper running completely different lines. One at the extreme outside, one at the extreme inside. And now the benefit kind of goes to Trapper in the way that he's been able to keep the momentum down the front straightaway, sends it inside of Wesley, trying to make the position, but he's got the 3 of Cannizzaro to the inside of him, almost made some contact. As a battle for the lead will go away as there's a spinning car, I believe Brian Werbel.
And a second time tonight that Brian Rubel finds himself upside down at Williams Grove, as that car is resting on its left side. See if maybe he's hoping someone might be a good Samaritan, come over and maybe tip him back onto all 4 wheels. It doesn't look like anybody's doing it right now. Let's go back and see what happened to him here. Rubel has not had any luck here at all, and oh my goodness, this was again kind of what we saw happen to him back in the heat as well. A very slow flip as he gets sent up into the wall, and up and over it goes, and unfortunately those steel guardrails hurting Rubel in another way, not with the hit, but in the fact it just kind of held his car up on its side.
So an update on Rubel. He has been flipped over by somebody. I wasn't quite sure who was the good Samaritan that flipped him over, but he has not had to tow it back to the pit lane. So good news for him. Better news for Freeman. Well, I was going to say better news for Freeman. He's not on to the pit lane. But what happened to Rubel is back when he flipped in the beginning of the night, the track was relatively clean, actually completely clean, so there hasn't been any grooves set down or any dirt redistributed, and his wheels dug into the dirt that was still packed together, and that was the slow flip there. This time around, all the dirt's been kicked up to the extreme high side of the racetrack. You can see just how much dirt still accumulated up there, and the same deal as he just a little bit sideways, and the wheels dug into the dirt again, and that's what caused him to have the slow flip yet again. That's, I think, one of the reasons why drivers are willing to run up there, but not willing to go too sideways up there.
Well, Bobby Puckett gets the pat on the back award of the race right there, as he was the car that helped Brian Rubel get back on all 4 wheels. Rubel will remain on the lead lap here. 16 of the 17 drivers on the lead lap. Freeman did not get a lap back here under this caution, as Stuckwich gets us back under the green once again. We've completed 6 green flag laps. Lap 7 goes on the board, and it's going to be Boniface and Wesley battling for second. Maybe 3 wide, but Trapper up the middle. Cannizzaro looked to go 4 wide there out of turn 2, but man, he lost a ton of momentum off the second corner.
Fanning out behind them, battle for the lead. Stuckwich versus Boniface goes away again.
Big wreck. Big wreck. Bobby Puckett, Jason Freeman, Philip Scott, Tony Lucarelli, I believe, was the car that was upside down. 4 or 5 drivers all looked like they were in a parking lot up there on the top of 3 and 4.
And this was a result of, I think the 9 actually got a piece of the wall going into turn 3, and then it just sent some drivers into one another. Oh, actually, no.
Oh!
I take that back. Lucarelli just overdrove the corner.
And we got another car that's up and on its side. I believe that is the aforementioned Philip Scott. He got down into the tires there just in the middle of 1 and 2.
Interesting happenings around the racetrack. I think, didn't Phillips happen under pacing, or?
I think, well,
When did this happen?
we'll find out. I mean, the wreck was over in 3 and 4, as we're going to see right here. Oh man, Lucarelli just kind of wiped out Lupe Gonzalez. Then Freeman and Puckett, nowhere to go. Oh, actually, I thought this was 1 and 2. Now this is still over in 3 and 4. Philip Scott was trying to get the car turned around. Back end kicks out from underneath him, hits those tires down there, separating the racetrack from the infield, and that flipped the car over.
Extremely unfortunate situation for Scott. He actually got some damage going into the incident. He's the one that tagged the wall. That's the one that I thought was going to cause the initial incident, but it was actually Lucarelli that just overdrove it into turn 3 and took some cars with him, and then everyone piled in behind him. That is a result of the track being extremely thin, and we were talking about earlier in the night how because of that, last week was a wide track with no barriers around the outside, so if something like that were to happen, more than likely would have seen them out into the tree line. But tonight, everyone just accumulated up onto the, congregated rather, up to the top of the racetrack, and no one was able to get down to the inside. But we'll reset them again. It's going to be Stuckwich, Boniface, Wesley, your top 3. Again, Stuckwich can go whenever he wants. This time he goes immediately. Almost kicks it up down to the inside. Almost made contact with the inside barrier, but we're back under green flag conditions. Boniface, Wesley battling for second, but Boniface sends it in. Contact with the leader, and they're wrecking in turn 2.
That's Perego, as well as Roginski, Burke, and I believe Lupe Gonzalez all there in that tangle in the center of 1 and 2. And another incident, this time up at the front inside of the top 3. It's going to lose Grant Wesley and James Boniface a ton of positions, as well as I believe that Boniface has scored in the 5th position and Wesley scored in 8th after that. Those two guys entered into the corner in the 2nd and 3rd spots.
This was an extremely close contact crash, and I think the reason why Grant Wesley drove it in really deep, got cut off by the 213, and then everyone just piled in behind them. The momentum loss is significant enough that it's going to cause everyone to stack up, and that's something that we also noticed in the heat races as well, where drivers would have some contact and then all of their momentum goes away. Everyone behind, not enough time to react, and this is another example of that one times about 17 other cars.
Now it looks like Boniface and Wesley are going to keep their spots of 2nd and 3rd. So really all dependent on when the caution came out and the field was frozen. And Stuckwich probably was not exactly thrilled to see the 213 still in his rearview mirror. The reason being, not this caution, but the 2 cautions prior, Boniface was making a charge there for that race lead. He was setting up the 24 to try and take that top position. And I think that Stuckwich was thinking maybe he had shaken Boniface, but not so lucky here, as Boniface and Wesley, they will be 2nd and 3rd, followed by Trapper and Cannonzaro. So you've still got those fast machines up there at the front. You also have James Richard, our winner from the first heat race, also up there inside of the top 6. But Stuckwich has done a good job, at least up to this point. The timing of the cautions have definitely helped him out. Update there on Philip Scott and Tony Lucarelli, a couple of other drivers that we saw flipped over under the caution prior to this. They had to teleport to pit road for a tow, and they have lost a lap as a result. Looks like we don't have any lucky dogs here, so Jason Freeman, Philip Scott, and Tony Lucarelli all going to be -1, as 14 drivers will be on the lead lap for this upcoming restart. Single file, since we ended up having caution come out before completing a green flag lap, and Stuckwich going to use that to his advantage as he pulls away in the lead. 2nd place is going to be Boniface. The battle's going to be for 3rd.
Wesley on the extreme outside, Trapper to the inside line, trying to make headway down there. Not a whole lot of room to be able to work down there, as there's almost contact made between the two of them going into 3, but Trapper will indeed pull ahead for the moment, but Wesley again from that top side will have it, and the yellow is out yet again, this time not rightly sure for who.
Gonna be the 177 of Tristan Maher, who has already teleported to pit road. Take a look and see what happened to him, as I'm going to assume it might have been another flip. I think Williams Grove may have the record for the entire season in most cars flipped over. Oh wow, the inside steel guardrail claims a victim right there.
He just drove it into the where it starts the barricade, and immediately knew that that was going to be a spin over, and that's incredibly unfortunate, because what just happened was that he was just simply running into the corner and just got it too sideways, not able to recover from it. He almost got tagged by the 4 as well going into it from Werble, but it was not contact there. But another driver, a result of the flippage here.
We also might be looking at Williams Grove holding the record this season for most cautions in a main event. We've already seen 3 cautions in the heat races. That was 2 in Heat 2 and 1 in the first heat. And already 6 caution flags here in the main event, and we haven't even gotten 10 green flag laps in up to this point. So definitely proving that Williams Grove is playing its part into its difficulty here on the schedule. And I want to highlight real quickly what the point stands look like coming into this race, just based on how a lot of these drivers seem to be having issues with this half-mile dirt track. You got Bobby Trapper, 12 points over John Cannizzaro. Kyle Roginski's third in points, 44 points out. Jason Freeman, who's trapped a lap down, he is fourth in points, 46 back. And Brian Rubel is 52 points back in the 5th position. James Boniface, last week's winner, is only up to 6th place, 60 points out. He's trying to get back-to-back victories here after the victory at Lernerville, but he's yet been able to get around that 24 of Stuckwich, who has been able to keep him and all the rest of them at bay.
And speaking of the battle for the lead in the points, we got the top 2 right now close together on the racetrack. This time it's Trapper in front of Cannizzaro. In their heat race, it was this, but vice versa. So you kind of think the Trapper now knows what he's got to do in order to get in front of Cannizzaro and to stay in front of Cannizzaro. That to be said, Cannizzaro on the inside line is going to try to bypass all of them. We completed another green flag lap, and still everyone trying to slot their way in line.
And people probably rooting here for Bobby Trapper are getting a little worried with him not being out in front. Do not worry, because when he took the checkered flag here last season, he didn't lead the most laps. That was Kenneth Drake, who led 21. Trapper only led the final 5 laps of the main event.
And he's got plenty of time to get up there and get to the lead of the race. Still working only lap 12, about to be lap 13, and he's pouncing, trying to get onto Boniface for the second place position. Got battle behind them as well between Richard and Cannizzaro. Now, Richard was in heat number 1, that crazy heat race that we saw everything kind of falling apart in the last 5 laps. So he's up to 5th place. We're battling for a 4th place position between him and Cannizzaro. Wesley has fallen backwards to 6th place. Matthew Hearn, after starting at the back of the pack, finds himself up in 7th place.
A great run there for Matthew Hearn. Yeah, started dead last on the field as he finished his heat race on pit road. Has been able to get through all the early carnage, and right now sliding in a good position inside the top 10. Trapper and Boniface continue side by side for that second position. It's allowing Stuckwich to run whatever line he wants to. Caution is out though. Oh, we've just talked about it. Matthew Hearn has looped it around there in turn 4.
Commentator's curse strikes the 2 car, and I think this one might have been a solo spin. There wasn't really anyone around him in order to help him, I don't think. And it indeed is the case. He arced it into the turn too quickly and got the inside guardrail.
Wow, there's a shot there to the left front. Doesn't look like he makes any contact with the back end of the car into the steel guardrail, but obviously that's going to hurt the suspension, and it has taken him out of this race, I do believe. As a tough break there for Matthew Hearn, who, as we mentioned at the time, was running in the 7th position. As a matter of fact, the garage area is starting to fill up and fill up quite rapidly. Tristan Maher, Tony Lucarelli, and Philip Scott have all gone to the garage area as well. So 4 drivers up to this point will not be finishing out tonight's main event.
It's unfortunate for them, but the damage sustained on those cars might have been a little bit too much to keep up the speed and the pace of these leaders. So tough break for all of them. And this had been last season. As Seth mentioned at the top of the program, they would have had a faster pair that they could have used, but no faster pairs that they have at their disposal in this season. So any damage you get, you're stuck with for the rest of the race, and that is unfortunate for them to go out so quickly tonight. Ethan Stuckwich will be the leader of the race still. Boniface will be second place. I'll make that Bobby Trapper will be second place. Boniface has been slotted back into third place, so the battle between second now looking more like a battle for the lead, as Trapper has been putting down some fast laps. I would imagine he would take it to Stuckwich. Then you have James Richard and John Cannizzaro make up the top 5. If you're Ethan Stuckwich, you hope that from now on yellows keep coming out, because you do not want to have to deal with Bobby Trapper. He knows this track like the back of his hand, and he's showing it tonight with a run up towards the front of the race. Green flag back out in the air.
And you have to wonder, too, Stuckwich ran, I believe...
Whoa! Trapper goes right up into... Trapper got run into by James Richard, I believe, or it might have been... Couldn't quite... I think it was Boniface that made contact.
Boniface. I think you're right. It was a second-place battle going wrong there between the only 2 drivers who up to this point have found victory lane this season. Go back and see what exactly happened there.
I think Boniface straight up ran too deep into the corner and slid right up into the 69, spun him around, and that's going to lose. It's going to lose Trapper a ton of positions.
Here's the hit, oncoming traffic. Ooh, Bobby Puckett, my goodness, just barely avoided, as did Lupe Gonzalez, and it looks like Boniface is actually going to lose a ton of positions as well, as he might be hit with an EOL penalty here. So, boy, I said it at the top of the night that we might end up seeing our 3rd different winner on the season, with 2 of the favorites now mired back in traffic. That may be even more of a possibility now, especially with what Stuckwich has been able to do out in front. And you've also got James Richard, who looked really good in his heat, of course, picking up that victory, but had to be right place, right time to be able to do it. You got Cannizzaro, who'd love to be able to get his first win, as well as the points lead lined up there in 3rd. Grant Wesley 4th, and Brian Rubel, who has been upside down twice tonight at Williams Grove, is now up inside the top 5.
That's a good comeback story for this Ford machine. If he goes on to finish in the top 5 tonight, he's got to be stoked about that, considering that he's seen this track in more ways than any of these other drivers have tonight. So, fantastic to see him up towards the front. He's got quite a bit of damage on the right side of his car. You can see the 4 scraped off the side of his car. It's kind of leaning a little bit jagged on the back side, but he's been able to show some speed. So, obviously, his car not being affected in that department, still under control. Behind him, you've got Anthony Perego, who I thought was the one who made the contact, but he's made a pretty good recovery drive back to the front. You have Puckett, Rajinski, Gonzalez, and Burke has made his way into the top 10 with a 10th place position. We're about to go back to green. Stuckwich gets a great run out. Richard staying right with him, though. This could be a battle for the lead in a couple laps' time.
Did very well, as 1st to 2nd to 3rd to 4th all spreads out. It almost looked like we might have a battle for 5th, but Rubel was able to get away from Perego. It might be Perego and... Actually, correction, now Rubel's going to lose the 4th position to Perego. And now here comes Roginski in that 20 machine as well. 3rd place under contest. Cannizzaro takes a deep look there out of the corner to the inside of James Richard, and that's tight between those 2 going into 1.
James Richard almost made contact with the back end of Stuckwich. It was almost what happened last time by, except with different drivers, he's still running it extremely deep. These drivers are starting to run it extremely fast into the turn to try to hold the momentum. It's just not working out too well for some of these drivers, as now Cannizzaro to the inside, trying to get around the 3 of Richard. Up the outside, you've also got Grant Wesley riding around the outside.
Yeah, Wesley tried the middle 3 wide, lost some momentum, dropping back to 5th. Look at Perego, high, wide, and handsome there on the top side, looking for the grip, looking for the run off the corner. Richard holds off Cannonzaro for 2nd. Now he has thoughts for the lead.
Oh, contact between him and Stuckwich going into turn 1. Who gets the advantage? Richard to the bottom, Stuckwich to the outside. They're still side by side, drag racing down the back straightaway. But if anything holds the way it is, Richard's going to come out of this with the lead, and Cannonzaro and Perego might try to jump on it for a 2nd place spot.
Perego and Cannonzaro trying to settle out who's going to be 3rd, who's going to be the one to capitalize if one of the top 2 sets a wheel out of place. Still side by side between those two. Advantage off the corner goes to Stuckwich, but it's going to be Richard still alongside. You've got them 2 rows deep, side by side, from 1st back to 4th. Grant Wesley's got the best seat in the house as he's in that 5th position.
He's hoping that these drivers have some kind of incident between them that he could capitalize and get up into the top 3. Look at him, almost 3 wide coming off of turn 2 between the 3rd, or make that 2nd through 4th place. Now you've only got 3 drivers running the outside line. Stuckwich is committed to the inside line, trying to make it work, but Stuckwich on the outside line might be able to make it happen.
I thought for a brief moment off 2 on the last lap that Richard might have him cleared for the lead, but no such luck. Now he might, as it's going to be side by side for 2nd. Cannonzaro gets alongside of Stuckwich for the runner-up position. Now both Cannonzaro and Richard run the bottom. Stuckwich on the top. He's going to battle back to the top side on the 16.
This is starting to look awful like heat number 1, where every driver in the top 5 was up against each other at the end of the race. It's starting to get that way. This is the longest green flag run that we've had so far. Richard and Stuckwich, this storied battle at the end, or at the front of the field, trying to hold it up. They keep trading spots. Oh, Stuckwich almost got the outside wall on the way down into turn 1. Everyone's still side by side, 2 rows deep, 3 wide, almost 4 wide coming off of turn 2.
Perego took a look. It's back to side by side, 2 rows deep there. It's going to be Richard and Stuckwich for the lead. Cannonzaro and Perego for 3rd. Now what's it going to look like here off of 4? How about we put him 4 wide off the final corner? Now Perego gets it at the line.
They tried and they actually made it work. Coming up, there's some contact with even Stuckwich. They somehow managed to make it work. Here comes Wesley to capitalize and get a 4th place spot. Perego leads the race.
Every single one of these top 5 are looking for their first win on the season. Cannonzaro might have gotten the wall there off of turn 4, but throw a blanket over the top 5. There's a part of me would love to see this thing go green to the end, because all these guys, everybody running a different line, looking for that little bit of extra grip.
The top 6 has gotten away from, or the top 5 has gotten away from the rest of the field. It's about 4 seconds back to 6th place from the end of Wesley. It's really going to come down to these 5 drivers. And if you ask me who's going to win this race, I could tell you I have no idea. They're all showing incredible speed late in the race. Wesley's hanging back, trying to get in and capitalize on a spot. Stuckwich has been leading the race for a while. James Richard showing some speed late in the race. John Cannonzaro has shown some incredible speed late in the run. But now Anthony Perego, I think that he was the fastest out of everybody. He's been able to get in the lead and has opened up a gap of about a second back to 2nd place.
Able to jump out in front, and he has opened up the distance. You are right, as Richard on the bottom, Cannonzaro on the top. And if you're Cannonzaro, how aggressive are you going to be at this point? Because Bobby Trapper, who was mired back in traffic on this previous restart, he's only been able to make his way up to 6th position, running about 2.5 seconds, 3 seconds behind this lead group. James Boniface is all the way back still in 11th. He's only picked up 1 spot since the restart.
And we are going to have an issue with the leader of the race if the laps continue to tick down, and that is that he's going to encounter some slower traffic very quickly, because Jason Freeman is up the racetrack, the next in line to be put a lap down. Then you have Zane Burke and Boniface, as you mentioned. They're quickly catching them, is Perego and the rest of them. If we continue to run this way, we might have some late race drama.
Cannonzaro really wide there off of 4. Might have brushed the wall again. Richard hooking that.
Whoa!
Oh, a carpet over. Stuckwich. He gets it back on all 4 wheels. Green stays out.
And he's lost a ton of momentum and a ton of damage been put onto the 24 car. That might take him out of the running for the win after he's been leading for so long. Grant Wesley's starting to struggle as well. Running the high side, he made some contact with the outside wall the last time around. Up at the front, it's Cannonzaro and Richard battling for second place. These two have got to start catching up to Anthony Perego. They need to make up this ground. There's only a handful of laps left.
Saw Perego a couple of weeks ago make his debut at Fairbury. He started from the 4th position, finished in 3rd. Tonight, he started from 8th, and he's only 2.5 laps away from picking up the victory. Richard and Cannonzaro might be the battle here to the checkered flag for the 2nd position, but again, Cannonzaro got the advantage in bonus points in his heat race, picking up the victory to Bobby Trapper's 2nd. Right now runs 3 positions ahead of the 69. Could very well be looking to be the points leader we head into next week's race. Oh, and the caution is out.
Stuckwich has gone around.
Oh my goodness.
This changes the entire landscape of the race.
Now we are adding on an extra lap here. We're going to be finishing this race with a 2-lap shootout. We will go 1 lap over the scheduled distance, which was going to be 35 laps. Let's go back and see what happened to Stuckwich, who was up front early in this race. Saw him go up and ride the wall, dropping him back to 5th, and his troubles just get worse here in the closing stages.
I think he overdrove it on the outside line of turn 4. He was trying to get the power down, and it just rode up the outside of the racetrack and made contact with the barricade, and it just never was able to get off of it, and it gets spun around. That will bring out the yellow. Unfortunate for him, because he was leading the race a big deal of the night, and now he finds himself in a 7th to make that an 8th place spot once everything settles out. But that changes everything for Anthony Perego. It was cruise on to a win. Now he's got to deal with Richard, Cannonzaro, and the rest.
I mean, what have you got to be thinking? You were literally maybe about half a lap away from picking up that white flag, and caution comes out. Everybody's knocking on your back door once again, trying to find victory lane. The other thing I'm wondering too, we saw just about every single lane being used there on that run. Is there any grip left for somebody to be able to make a move on Perego?
I don't think there is. We saw drivers running up to the extreme outside trying to make headway. That's about the only place that I think these drivers are able to get extreme amount of grip. Even the inside line's gone away. Everyone's used it up from the heat races. So really, you're just trying to send it in and hopefully it sticks. The track has worn down so much. These cars are sliding so much through the turns now. And we saw Perego, he was more or less diamonding the corners, running it in deep on the inside, swinging out to the outside, pointing his car front-facing with the back straightaway and the front straightaway and just powering it down there and letting it ride out. If you're going to have to pass him, you're going to have to mimic his every movement. And if you haven't practiced that throughout the race, this might be Perego's race to lose.
Let's set it up here as Perego, Richard, Cannonzaro, Wesley, and Trapper. That's going to be the top 5 for this upcoming restart. Bobby Puckett 6th, Rosinski in 7th, Brian Rubel, James Boniface, Zaneberg. That's the top 10. Last car in the lead lap, Ethan Stuckwich in the 11th spot. Jason Freeman 1 lap down. We did have another driver go to the garage area during that green flag run. That was Lupe Gonzalez. He'll finish 13th, but here we go. Green, white, checker, Perego trying to get the jump. He's got 2 car links back to Richard into 1.
Oh, Richard sends it in, but Richard gets the outside retaining wall. He's lost a ton of momentum. Perego's going to scamper away. Now a battle for second place between Richard, Cannonzaro, and Wesley as Perego around the outside of the racetrack, continuing to lead the race. But here comes Richard on the inside as he made contact. 1 lap to go.
Made the door open, and Richard was more than happy to take the inside line. Now it's going to be Perego defending on the bottom. Swinging up there is going to be Bobby Trapper. He'll get the 4th position away from Grant Wesley. Wesley crosses him over out of 2. Cannonzaro and Richard battle for 2nd. Perego is going to come out of turn 4. He's going to get his first win on the season.
He's going to win here at Williams Grove. He holds off the charging Richard. Fantastic drive late in the race for Anthony Perego. He had the speed where he needed it the most, was able to jump through the rest of the field. Cannonzaro will snipe a 3rd place position away, and Grant Wesley will finish in the 4th place. And the biggest news is that Bobby Trapper was able to make up a position under that last start, so he will get closer to Cannonzaro. The points battle still tight.
Oh, it's going to be very tight between those 2 drivers. 12-point separation coming into this one. 1 bonus point difference between the two in the third and final heat race, and 2 positions in the finishing results here tonight. Oh man, we might be down to single digits separating those two when we get to next week's race at Limaland. But Anthony Perego with the burnout. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was back in his heat race, but wasn't Perego one of the drivers that suffered a Williams Grove flip?
I believe he was, or at least he came close to it. He certainly had an interesting way of getting around this track during his heat race, but just goes to show that you can't always base these drivers' success off of the heat races because you never know what might happen throughout the course of the race, and you never know how much speed they really have until they need it the most.
Take a look at the finishing results from tonight's event. Perego with the victory. How about James Richard? What a debut. Got that win in the first heat. Finishes second place here tonight. Canonzaro will put this with a question mark behind it. New points leader. He finishes in the podium third place. Grant Wesley in fourth. And Bobby Trapper is going to finish the evening out in the top 5. Bobby Puckett sixth. Boniface picked up a couple of spots there on that final restart to bring it home seventh. Roginski, Stuckwich, and Rubel completed the top 10. We end up having 11 drivers finish on the lead lap. Zane Burke, the last of those. Freeman, 1 lap down in 12th. And these drivers finished out of the race. Lupe Gonzalez, Matthew Hearn, Philip Scott, Tony Lucarelli, and Tristan Maher. That is the finishing result here tonight from Williams Grove. We're going to have to wait and see what the point standings look like when we end up getting to Limaland next week. But what do you say we talk with some of our podium finishers here from tonight, and let's see if we can kick things off with driver of the number 3, John Canonzaro. Hey, John, Anthony and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us? We'll give it another go here. I think John's having some microphone problems. John, Anthony, and Seth up here in the booth. You got us? All right, looks like we might be having some technical difficulties here. So while we're waiting for John to be able to get that sorted out, let's see if we can get. Doesn't look like we have our second place finisher available here. And I'm not certain we have our race winner here either.
Might be getting ready for the next race out if any of them are in it.
Yeah, we'll actually plug that right now. We actually, in about a half hour, are going to be bringing you coverage of the season opener for the TNR DRP Stadium Truck Series, as they're going to be going off-road racing at Bark River. Be having heats, the B main, the A main, all of that going to be coming up here momentarily, as we're still waiting to see if we can get a word with Canonzaro. Let's see if maybe we can get him now. Hey, John, guys up here in the FRM booth. You got us now? It would appear that we're still having the technical issues here, so not certain if we'll be able to get an interview with him. It does not look like we have our second or race winner available for interview either. So we're going to be starting to wrap this thing up. As mentioned, we're going to be bringing you guys coverage of the DRP Stadium Truck Series in just mere moments. But man, I'll tell you what, Anthony, as looks like we are going to be wrapping this thing up. I mean, what a race here tonight. And it started with the heat races. I mean, I think we saw a little bit more out of tonight than we would originally have expected, with the fact that we saw the flips, we saw the cautions in the heat races, we saw that long green flag run where anybody inside that top 5 looked like we were going to be able to win that race. And then we had the late race drama with that late race restart.
Absolutely. Everyone just kind of caved in on each other at the end of the race. Why they got spread out at the end of the race, and then that late race restart certainly gave some light to some drivers to try and make it a way up into the lead of the race. But at the end of the day, didn't seem to matter, as just too much speed at the end of the race, I feel, and couldn't make any ground. And how does that say for the track conditions, though? Because it kind of made it almost impossible to make passes late in the run.
And it was interesting too. We were talking about the lack of grip that we observed in those heats, as well as the early portions of the main event. And I was watching the fact that the sun was going down, the darkness was creeping in, the lights were turning on. That was obviously going to be cooling that clay surface down quite a bit as well, and giving these drivers a little bit more of a headache of trying to find where the grip was going to be. So it was very interesting to watch that all play out during the course of that 35 lap main event. But nonetheless, congratulations to Anthony Perego on the victory here tonight. Sets us up for what should be a doozy of a points battle continuing on here next week at Limaland. Well, actually, correction, I believe it's actually going to be 2 weeks from now that we will be bringing you coverage from Limaland. So 2 Tuesdays from now. Anthony, we got some stadium trucks to be able to broadcast here in just mere moments. So appreciate you joining the booth for this one, and looking forward to what we got coming up here.
Absolutely. We got a couple more races to go still, and I'm excited to get to it. So we'll see you guys on the other end with it as well.
Hope you guys join us for the second leg of our doubleheader here tonight. TNR DRP Stadium Truck Series coming up right after this. Thanks for tuning in to tonight's race here for the TNR Master Millwright Big Block Series. Anthony Perego, your winner at Williams Grove Speedway. For Anthony McCurry, I'm Seth Cole. We'll see you guys just in mere moments here as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.